Are you going through a super intense breakup where your nervous system just feels frazzled and overwhelmed and you can't eat or sleep and you're just like dysregulated in all sorts of different ways? If so, keep watching because I'm here to help. Hi, my name's Kirby. I am a specialist in trauma and adult attachment theory, and I shoot these videos every day to help people navigate through the darkest times of life and help them move upward towards joy and freedom. And today we're talking about that big, nasty event, the intense, overwhelming feelings that we get when we finally cut the cord. And it's not easy. And I applaud you for taking that step. Now, quick little background on me. I come from an entire lifetime of dysregulated nervous system, toxic relationships, incredibly dramatic breakups, like basically all the various stereotypes and archetypes you hear about in unhealthy relating. That was me. And about 10 years ago, I started changing that path, getting into the work, recognizing that like I feel alone and flailing in all of this. There has to be a path through. There's so many smart people out there. And so I started researching and watching and reading, and eventually over my pathway was a little bit diffuse. It wasn't really directed because I didn't really have anyone there helping me. I was in therapy and had coaching, but they were kind of like more attached to their own modality and their own rituals than they were in actually connecting with my particular state and my path through the process. And so as I moved through over a couple of years and I eventually did reach the other side, I was like, that could have been way more efficient. I could have, knowing what I know now, I think understanding relationship difficulties and navigating the breakup process and all things having to do with relationship and childhood development could be way more efficient. And so I started in this career and I absolutely love it. So many of the things I'm going to talk about today come from my own experiences. Sure, I've done the book reading and the seminars and other stuff, but a lot of it just comes from my own lived experience, and now I have a greater understanding of what's actually going on. So we're in this breakup process, and let's say you go no contact, because really, if the relationship is hot, the relationship is super intense, and if you feel this like consistent craving to be in connection with that person every day, you're messaging all the time, you're sending memes back and forth, or even in the moments where you guys have conflict, there's just this overwhelming anxiety that arises inside you to like reach out to this person and say, let's fix this. I can't stand being in a fight. I can't stand being disconnected. Let's go. Like, what do I need to do? There's this tricky one. What do I need to do to make myself better or different or change so that you will embrace me again? That's literally like the root of people pleasing, which is a trauma response. So if that's the kind of dynamic that you find yourself in, and God knows I was in that dynamic many, many times, we need to take initiative at beginning the healing process. And the beginning of the healing process it's not about fixing the relationship with the other person. It's about fixing the relationship with self. When we are wrapped up in this anxious cycle of like, I only feel safe when someone is focused on me, validating me, and embracing me, when that dynamic is happening, we are basically functioning like an addict. The way the relationship and the partner is showing up in the brain is very, very similar to the way a substance addiction functions inside the brain. And that's not a fun place to be. And you can see it as it kind of like takes over our life. And it's just like, and we become more and more focused on getting our fix and grasping and getting and pulling and reaching for it. And in the times that we don't have it, we amplify up into a very intense state of anxiety, dysregulation. Yeah. You get it? So basically what's going on here is we're going through withdrawal. We're going through withdrawal because vast portions of networks, neural networks inside the brain have become completely oriented and optimized for having the stimulating substance, stimulating drug, stimulating person. They've been optimized to have that available. So it's almost like you're putting a puzzle together, but there's half of it are just open pieces, right? You don't actually reach the end of the puzzle because you're using the other person, their presence, their attention, their validation, whatever, as the other piece of the puzzle. And the brain is like, I want to be complete. I want to be whole. I want to have a clean path and a clean way of making decisions and interacting with stuff, facing stress. And so as the network is basically assembled, it reaches this kind of jagged endpoint of the puzzle. And it says, the way that I complete that is to go over there and get the other half of the puzzle. This is kind of how the substance addiction process works and how the person addiction or love addiction also works. The network is the neural networks for decision making, emotional processing, and everything else are basically partially formed. And they're reliant upon, dependent upon another thing to fill in the other half of the puzzle. So that means we are in a state of incompleteness, and we're in a state of complete and total dependence upon another thing, person, substance, or whatever, being there in order for me to like function, in order for that neural network to function correctly. And so that creates the addiction. And then the best tool we have for addressing that issue, especially when it's with a person, is we have to abstain. We have to break the connection. We have to pull away from the thing that we're addicted to. And we have to sit here with ourselves and this kind of jagged edge of the neural network. And that is super, super uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable because all these aspects of the neural network are basically saying, hey, we want to be complete. We want to do the rest, right? We want a complete puzzle here. And so it will basically start releasing chemicals and hormones inside our mind that will create feelings of craving, desire, compulsion to reach out for that thing. Give me the pill, give me the powder, give me the person. That's our neural network saying, give me the thing so that we can be complete, so that we can get what we need. And it's a real tragedy that we live in a world where movies and books and all this other stuff are romanticizing this idea that a person in that degree of craving for another human being, and we'll say, oh, they're just really in love. And it's like, nah, love has nothing to do with this. In most cases that you see this, like there was a time earlier, I mean, that was totally me. And there was a time earlier in my process where I was just like, okay, well, love is a part of this. Like I met them and I fell in love with them. And then I developed this dependency dynamic and everything else. And I, then it just turned into something unhealthy. But as I continued researching and analyzing, kind of studying these experiences I was having, I realized I said, nah, this is like, that was unhealthy from the beginning. Like my entire system, attachment system specifically, was oriented towards having a half-formed puzzle. Because this is kind of how the attachment theory works, and the attachment wounds form in the early childhood, is that the normal developmental process is to help a child move through stages, like basically it starts with an unfinished puzzle, mother and child together in what they call a dyadic bond, which means two. So this two-person bond. And that child's attachment system is not completely formed, kind of on purpose, because that helps for us to survive and the bonding to happen and survival of the human species and everything else. So that's kind of intentional. But over the first 3 to 5 years, hopefully, in an ideal circumstance, that child learns how to put another row onto the edge of that puzzle. And they do another one, and they face a challenge, and they deal with stress, and they overcome that stress, and then they add another row to the puzzle. And then they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again. And then as time goes on, they're facing a continuous sequence of stress. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm scared. Oh, look, I found a solution. I can do this. Oh, I'm capable. And then another row of the puzzle gets added. And then they're just like, oh, and then I'm more complete. I am more autonomous. I'm more independent. I'm more capable of living my own life. And then eventually, in an ideal circumstance, over the next 18 years of life, you reach a point where they reach the edge and they say, I am a complete and whole person. And I'm not in a dependent dynamic with another person or thing in order to complete this entity that is me. That's the ideal situation. But many, many of us didn't get the ideal situation, and we didn't get that process. And it's like we learn how to function, we learn how to get a job and drive and earn a paycheck and do taxes and everything else. We learn how to function in these cognitive, conscious, logical ways of living life, the logistics of living life. But from the emotional side, we didn't reach the end of the puzzle. From the emotional side, because our parents are unavailable or abusive or critical or whatever, we didn't get to complete the puzzle emotionally. And because the puzzle's unfinished, we're now looking for someone to come complete that puzzle. And I come in with my half of a puzzle and you come in with your half of a puzzle. And it's like, oh, look, zip. And we just zip together and it's like, what a perfect match. And when you hear, you complete me. Okay, great. Feels amazing. Super chemistry. Fantastic sex. Oh my God, we're so in love. Everybody sees it. La, la, la. Until it goes bad, which it always does. Until it reaches the end of that union, because neither person is a wholly formed individual. They are only complete when the other person is standing next to them. And so what's the strategy that we see so often around the world in many different cultures is that we have all these half-formed individuals. When the breakup happens, they go through this massive pain and agony and misery and self-doubt and everything else. And then they're just like, they immediately jump on Tinder, Bumble, dating, nightclubs, whatever, just saying, someone show up to complete me. They go looking for another person that has a partially formed puzzle that will fit. And I don't know if this is you. I don't know if you know anybody like this, but this is me of the past. And I've known hundreds of people like this, that the breakup happens. There is this heartbreak and pain and total misery. That's their neural pathway screaming in complaint to say, give me another half of the puzzle again. Go back and get that person again. And that's why you'll see these people say, okay, I'm going in no contact. And then 2 or 3 days later, they're just like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I want to reach out to him. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't think straight. Like my entire body is completely dysregulated every waking moment, which is most moments of the day, because I can't sleep. Why can you not sleep? Because the amount of adrenaline and cortisol that is coursing through your system is extremely elevated. Your body is in a literal survival response. And it says, if we do not get this person back, if we do not complete the puzzle, we are going to die. And so it will flood our conscious mind with compulsions and sadness and super intense emotions, trying to motivate us to go back to get the thing, get the source of our addiction, get that click. Does that make sense? I lived this over and over and over again in my life. And it's really, really not fun. And maybe to make it even more tragic is when you do make it to the next relationship, it's only good for a little period of time, because after the little honeymoon phase and you have to settle into a real actual life together where you're two different people, like you're two different people that don't have complete puzzles. And so you're in this dependency dynamic with each other, which makes navigating all challenges extremely difficult, because your entire nervous system and subconscious decision making will say, like, if I have a need to make a choice between the thing I truly want or the thing that will maintain the puzzle connection, you will choose the puzzle connection every time, which means you will abandon self. You will not actually follow through or pursue the things that are of your best interest, your preferences, your needs and desires. Because your nervous system is saying, well, getting my preference, getting the food I want for dinner is a tiny price to pay compared to the very survival of this as an organism. Like, we will die if the puzzle is taken away, but if I don't get the pizza I want, that's okay. That's not a big deal. And you see this over and over again with people that are passive. They struggle to make decisions. They struggle to communicate. They struggle to express wants and needs. They have a consistent pattern of being codependently enmeshed with their partners. Yet at the same time, they're very emotionally avoidant. Because why are they emotionally avoidant? Because they're half formed. They're not completely there yet. They don't have the neural pathway that allows them to kind of reach the full potential of their emotional reality and their emotional experience. That's not available. And because it's not available, there's this whole aspect of avoiding. Their emotional avoidance is towards the things that they're incapable of doing, and they're incapable of doing because the puzzle isn't completely formed. But yet they get really good at finding a partner, clicking in place and saying, oh, now I feel good about life. I'm happy. I get to settle. Their nervous system calms down, usually for both people. Their nervous system calms down. They sit on the couch and watch Netflix. They have some sex. They go on vacations together, and they think it's fine. And they're just like, yeah, this is what being in a relationship is. It's like, yeah, sure. But what we know about attachment theory is that you bring children into that mix. Children literally passively absorb what they're around. And these children are absorbing all of the behavioral responses that both parents are doing. And the behavioral responses are being motivated by having an incomplete puzzle. So guess what happens in the child? The child does not absorb a complete puzzle of mom and dad together, because that's two people. And the child's nervous system is observing a singular person. I'm one, they're one. And so it watches the behavioral responses of each person, and it absorbs those. If this situation is one that freaks mom out, that's obviously a situation where freaking out is appropriate. The child learns to freak out in that same situation. And so, bizarrely, two people whose attachment wounds zip together to kind of create a whole does not actually emulate and teach or model. It does not model and teach a child's nervous system how to be whole. The child learns how to be two halves that are both broken or incomplete. So what we see much more often is that the child will actually inherit fear-based attachment responses from both parents. So instead of the child being like, oh, this is a complete whole package, it's actually like, I'm actually getting the worst from both, not the best from both. From an attachment point of view, from an emotional processing point of view. So what does this have to do with breakups? Yeah, I know there's people out there that are going to watch this video and just be like, oh, this is going to tell me how to feel better. And it is. If you've watched this far, there is a path through here that you will feel better. But it's not what pop psychology and romantic movies are telling you. The answer in this situation where you're going through a big, intense breakup is to understand the nature of your own nervous system and be like, I have wounds of incompleteness inside me that create tremendously strong compulsions to reach out for another and get that void filled and fixed. But in doing so, it sure feels good in a moment, but it's creating a long-term struggle. It's creating a long-term cycle where I'm going to keep falling in the same pit over and over again. And it's not a great place to be. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it is we have to come to terms with our own woundedness. We have to understand that I have subconscious, very, very strong compulsions inside me that drive me to fill a void, to fill a need, to maintain an addictive relationship with someone that provides validation, attention, love, sex, whatever. It's really just validation. I need to understand that lives inside me. And then I need to take the initiative to say, what is that inside me? And how do I help that part of me feel whole when there's no one else around? There's no other person there that's going to fill my half of the puzzle. How do I fill that half by myself? And I already know the complaints to this one. I see this all the time in the groups. People say, if I'm a complete and whole individual, what even is the point of a relationship? That is exactly the argument you hear from an addict. Like, I want to be addicted because it feels so good when I get my fix. I want to be codependently enmeshed because it feels so good when it happens. Oh, I'm just going to conveniently forget about all the times I feel miserable and like I don't want to go on with life and like I can't do my job and I can't drive and I can't eat. Like, we're just going to forget about all that. We're just going to focus on this moment of like euphoric bliss where my nervous system is like reeling like some kind of massive heroin high. That's what we're going to focus on. It's like, what is the point of relationship if you're both autonomous individuals? The point of a relationship at that point is to build something together with your combined strength. That's the point. If you look back in history, this is what humans have been doing for thousands of years. You build a family, you build a community, you build a structure, maybe you build a small paramilitary force. God knows, right? But the point is that you get two people that come together that are completely and wholly formed, and they have incredible power at creating anything. But it's not just that. It is, life is hard, and we each face challenges, and oftentimes those challenges are completely unexpected. And so if we have two completely formed humans, and this person suddenly has a major medical illness, and they're unavailable, they can't perform well or whatever, their partner is a completely formed human and says, I can step into a place where I take on more responsibilities in this relationship. I can care for my partner. I can care for the children, and I can help us thrive. And I can deal with the sadness and difficulties that come because my neural pathways are fully formed. But what you see, I'm not kidding here, over and over and over again, You see people that are in the codependent enmeshment bit. They say, we're all great. We're all happy. This is all fantastic. This is literally the marriage that I was in 10 years ago. Like everyone in the community knew us. Everyone in the community was like jealous of our love and our attention and everything else. But like we had this massive codependent enmeshment. And it's like, we're all great and happy until one person falls down. And when one person falls down, suddenly that person is like, hey, where's the rest? I'm not getting what I want. Like I'm not happy here. You're not fulfilling your part of the bargain. You're not completing my puzzle anymore because you've fallen upon hard times and bad luck. And so I don't want to be here anymore. And then they bail. Or worse, they say, I resent you and I'm angry at you and I'm judging you for falling down. Like, I connected with you because you could complete my puzzle. But now, because you're a real human being that faces real challenges and you actually fall down, I'm going to judge you for it. And you're a bad, horrible person because you stopped filling my half of the puzzle. Or your half to my puzzle. We see this all the time. That the moment that an anxious person, this is not all, but it's many, the moment that a person with an anxious attachment style is cut off from their source, the person that's providing the validating energy and the other half of the puzzle, they will demonize that person. How dare you take that away from me? Does that sound like love? Because that was me for a long time. And I eventually got to the point where I'm just like, wait a second, this attitude that I have towards this person doesn't sound like love at all. It sounds like just selfish addiction, which it was. I was just like, whoa. Like, I thought I was in love with this person. Maybe I am. Maybe there's some aspect of me that is. But right now, the fact that she took that away, she took away my validation. She took away my reinforcement. She took away my supportive energy. Now I'm just angry and bitter. And I want to come up with all sorts of psychological labels so I can label her and tear her down. I want to dehumanize her into being a selfish, nasty monster. Because if I do that, then I don't have to come to terms with how I created that dynamic. I don't have to come to terms with the fact that I am a partially formed puzzle seeking someone else that fits. This is heavy stuff. And I'm sorry if this is not exactly the information that you want to hear, but it's the information you need to hear. The intensity, this is an unfortunate truth of the reality. The intensity of craving that a person has after a breakup is not an indicator of how much they were in love. It's an indicator of how many of their wounds were secretly motivating the whole process. The intensity of craving, the intensity of dysregulation during a breakup is the indicator and reflection of my own wounds, of how many of my wounds have gone unresolved, unattended, and just like smattered over with addictive behaviors. That's actually what's going on. It's not being driven by love. Because you think about it, you come up with, what's your definition of love? Love is patient and kind and virtuous and, endures challenges and all that other kind of stuff. Or love is just a place of wishing the best for the other person. It's like, okay, great. And what do you see from people? Like literally, go out in the world, talk to 20 friends about their breakups or their exes, and what do you hear? You'll hear anger, vitriol, blaming, labeling, demonizing this other person. Not all, of course. There's some people out there that are just like, no, I have gentle and graceful breakups with my exes. But what we see a lot is we see people with just this pain and vitriol towards the ex. And I'm just like, if you've got pain and vitriol towards your ex, there's a very good chance you were never in love to begin with. Or you might have been in love, which is really just attachment panic, but you didn't actually love them as a human being. You were just there to get. You showed up and you got invested in this relationship because they were giving you another row of your puzzle. They were giving you the other half. They were giving you an energy and validation and attention that can fill your void. And that's actually why we're there. And so as long as they're there and they're providing, I've got all these positive feelings and all these expressions of love and everything else. But the moment they step away, the moment they can't do that anymore, it's like, F that guy. He's a jerk. She's a covert narcissist. She's got this problem or that personality disorder, whatever. It's like, yeah, you were in a covert contract that was never negotiated, and you were in a dependency dynamic, and both of you are probably filling attachment voids that you just keep ignoring. So figure this out, fill the attachment void, become a self-contained autonomous human by yourself that is not dependent upon others for love, attention, validation. And that actually frees us to be present and courageous in more situations. It actually opens our heart to a place where it's like, I can be present with you even though you're not perfect. I can be present with you even though you're not giving me, you're not dumping your validation buckets into my endless well of insecurity. I can be more present with more people. I can be more heart expansive and more heart opening and more loving and accepting with more people. And then the relationships can flourish in a really, really healthy way. And you know what else happens? And I'm living proof of this. You know what else happens? And I'm living proof of this, is that you get to a point where your relationships can part gracefully, and you can recognize this wonderful, beautiful, interesting person that I invested in for a period of time, and we had some very wonderful memories together, but overall, we're not actually in a place of compatibility or longevity. And so we can recognize that, and we can say, we're ending goodbye, at least goodbye to this stage of our relationship. And we're going to step into a different stage of relationship. And I can keep caring about you. I can keep celebrating you. I can keep supporting you. I can keep just caring and loving you from afar as the neat and interesting and wonderful human being that I fell in love with to begin with. And then the other person does the same. And then our breakups are just like, oh, there's a period of sadness. There's a period of grief where it's just like, oh yeah, something that was a lot of fun and nurturing and yummy has to go away. And that's just life. I'll survive. I'll survive because I'm a completely formed human. My attachment system, my entire nervous system is not inflamed in a state of panic saying I absolutely need them in order to survive. I'll survive on my own. That's okay. No panic, no big emotions, no hijacks, no system override, no massive grief, no sleepless nights, no loss of appetite, no night sweats. Like all these things we see during very, very intense breakups that are all survival panic responses, those all go away. Like literally all of them, they just evaporate. It's just like, oh, I'm going to be sad for a little bit. Sometimes it's a couple hours, sometimes a couple days. It's usually not more than a couple hours. And it's just like, okay, I accept this new reality and I can keep caring about you. I do not have to devalue them. I do not have to dehumanize. I can just accept them as they are and recognize that we are not in a position to have a long-term relationship together. And that's it. I hope this has been helpful. I know this is really heavy stuff. And going through a breakup is very, very difficult. And this is the kind of information that I wish I had 10 years ago. this is the kind of video that I wish I'd had 10 years ago so that I can understand what the F is happening inside my body and inside my mind. When I went through my big breakups, there was 2 or 3 of them that were just life-threatening. And when I went through those, and I would go to the internet and YouTube and everything else, looking for hope and advice and everything else. And of course, I'm in this place where it's like, how do I get my ex back, right? That whole thing, how do I get my ex back, is because that's my nervous system trying to get them back to complete the puzzle again, because it doesn't believe that we can survive with a half-formed puzzle. It's literally a survival response. So I went through all that crap, and I would find all these people. There's like how to manipulate your ex and how to know contact to get them to reach out and how to inflame their attachment system so that they are only thinking about me. And just like the amount of incredibly toxic, incredibly unhealthy advice out there is astonishing. It's really astonishing how bad the advice is, because you know what sells clicks and click-throughs and engagement and likes and hours watched, all that crap. What does that is validating your attachment panic, is sitting here and telling you that you're justified and you're right in hating them, devaluing them, dehumanizing, whatever, right? Like that sells engagement. And I want engagement, but it's, but I'm not going to sacrifice my values to get there. And it's like, this is the real path. That other thing about trying to manipulate or win back or whatever, I know that is the craving that lives inside, and I know it's very powerful, but it is not the path. Because go find any person who's actually walked that path. Literally, there's thousands of them. Go find anyone who broke no contact, who went back to re-engage, who stayed in the addiction cycle, and ask them, how satisfied are you with this relationship 3 years later, 6 years later, 10 years later? Because we've got loads and loads of people that are like, I wish I'd ended this 25 years ago. 25 years you stayed in an unhealthy, unsatisfying relationship with a person. Why? It's 25 years of your life that you lost. Don't do it. Find the answer. Find your attachment wounds. Reach out to someone like me or any number of other coaches and therapists out there. Get some help to understand your attachment wounds, to go deeply into them, to find the path of healing, and then your life will change. I guarantee it. I'm living proof. And now I've got a string of clients and couples that I've helped over the past few years, and each one is in a different world, different place, different reality. And the way they navigate relationships and breakups is entirely different. Higher life satisfaction, more happiness, more joy, more freedom, less pain. And that's what we're all going for. I wish you the best. I believe in you. Peace.